LSDs, and gentlemen. There is one decision that separates people who merely exist from those who truly live. It is the decision to stop allowing yesterday to control today. Too many people wake up every morning carrying the weight of old mistakes, old disappointments, old failures, and old opinions. They drag the past into every opportunity, every relationship, every dream, and then they wonder why nothing changes. The truth is simple. Your past has a voice, but it does not deserve the final vote. Every successful life reaches a moment where someone says, "I refuse to let what happened yesterday become the blueprint for tomorrow." That decision changes everything. Life is not asking you to erase your past. That would be impossible. It is asking you to learn from it without living inside it. There is a tremendous difference between carrying wisdom and carrying regret. Wisdom makes you stronger. Regret makes you heavier. Wisdom helps you move forward. Regret convinces you to stand still. Imagine driving a car while staring only into the rearview mirror. You already know what would happen. You would eventually crash. Yet that is exactly how many people live. They keep looking behind them. They replay conversations. They replay failures. They replay missed chances. They replay moments they wish they could change. Meanwhile, life is moving forward without waiting for them. You cannot build a better future while constantly reliving an old story. One mistake does not define your character. One failure does not define your future. One rejection does not determine your worth. One bad chapter does not mean the entire book is ruined. The greatest victories often belong to people who made the biggest mistakes, but chose not to. Stay there. Success is never about pretending. Failure never happened. Success is about refusing to let failure become your permanent address. Many people believe confidence comes from never failing. That is not true. Confidence comes from realizing you survived failure and kept moving anyway. Every challenge teaches something. Every disappointment contains a lesson. Every setback reveals a weakness that can become a strength if you are willing to work on it. Life has an interesting way of rewarding those who refuse to quit learning. Sometimes the greatest prison has no walls. It exists inside the mind. People imprison themselves with sentences like, "I should have known better. I missed my chance. I'm too old now. It's too late. People like me never succeed." These thoughts become invisible chains. No one else can see them, but they limit every decision. Freedom begins the moment you question those beliefs. Ask yourself, who told you your best years are behind you? Who decided that one failure canceled your potential? Who declared that because something did not work before, it never will? Life certainly did not. Nature gives us a remarkable lesson every single day. Every morning, the sun rises again. It does not apologize for yesterday's storm. It simply does its job. Seasons change. Trees lose their leaves. Winter arrives. Everything appears lifeless. Yet spring always returns. Growth begins again. If nature believes in new beginnings, why shouldn't you? There comes a point where holding on to the past becomes more painful than letting it go. That is the moment transformation becomes possible. People often spend years blaming circumstances, parents, teachers, employers, friends, or bad luck. While those experiences may have shaped them, they do not have to control them. You cannot always choose what happened to you, but you can always choose what happens next. Responsibility is one of the greatest forms of personal power. The moment you accept responsibility for your future, you stop giving your past permission to steal your tomorrow. That does not mean blaming yourself for everything. It means recognizing that your future belongs to you. No one else will build it. No one else will protect it. No one else will create the habits, make the decisions, or develop the discipline required for a meaningful life. The future is earned one choice at a time. Think about the people you admire most. They probably experienced rejection. They faced criticism. They encountered loss. They suffered disappointment. The difference was never the absence of hardship. The difference was their response. Extraordinary people are ordinary people who made extraordinary decisions repeatedly. They decided not to surrender to excuses. They decided not to become victims of yesterday. They decided that their dreams deserved another attempt. That decision is available to everyone. Your habits matter more than your history. The person you become next year depends less on what happened 5 years ago and more on what you consistently do beginning today. Read a little every day. Improve your skills every day. Protect your health every day. Strengthen your character every day. Speak with integrity every day. Save a little money every day. Keep your promises every day. Small daily disciplines quietly create extraordinary futures. People often underestimate the power of consistency because results are invisible at first. The first day seems insignificant. The first week feels ordinary. The first month appears unchanged. But over time, those small actions become impossible to ignore. The same principle works in reverse. Small excuses repeated daily become large regrets. Choose carefully what you repeat. Do not compare your beginning to someone else's middle. Everyone has a different journey. Some people bloom early. Others bloom later. Success does not follow a universal calendar. The important question is not how fast someone else is moving. The important question is whether you are moving. Progress always defeats perfection. Many dreams disappear because people wait until they feel ready. They wait until fear disappears. They wait until confidence arrives. They wait until circumstances become perfect. Those moments rarely come. Action creates confidence. Movement creates momentum. Courage grows after the first step, not before it. The road becomes clearer when you start walking. Do not waste another year trying to rewrite yesterday. Spend your energy creating a tomorrow that makes yesterday less important. Forgive yourself where forgiveness is needed. Learn the lesson where learning is required. Accept the reality you cannot change. Then turn your attention toward what you can control. Your attitude, your effort, your discipline, your choices, your character. These are the building blocks of a remarkable future. Remember this. Every day you wake up, life quietly places a blank page in front of you. Yesterday's pages have already been written. You cannot erase them. You cannot rewrite them. But today's page is still empty. What you write on it is entirely up to you. The greatest comeback is not becoming who you used to be. It is becoming someone you never imagined you could become. Your past may explain where you started. It does not decide where you finish. The door to your future has never been locked. It has only been waiting for someone brave enough to stop looking backward, reach for the handle, and walk through it. Most people are not held back by a lack of talent, opportunity, or intelligence. They are held back because they continue to live in yesterday. They replay old conversations, revisit painful memories, and relive moments they wish had turned out differently. Every morning they wake up with another chance to build something meaningful, yet they spend their energy carrying burdens that belong to another time. The past has a way of demanding attention, but it should never be allowed to control your direction. It should be a source of wisdom, not a place of residence. There is a difference between remembering where you came from and refusing to leave it. One helps you grow, while the other quietly steals the future that could have been yours. Think about how often people define themselves by a single mistake. One business failed, so they believe they are failures. One relationship ended, so they assume they are unworthy of love. One opportunity slipped away, so they convince themselves that success is no longer possible. The mind has an incredible ability to turn temporary experiences into permanent beliefs. If you are not careful, one difficult chapter becomes the title of your entire life story. But life was never designed that way. Every chapter exists for a reason, and no chapter has the authority to determine how the book ends. Your responsibility is not to rewrite what has already happened. Your responsibility is to write the next page with greater wisdom than the last. Every experience contains a lesson, but lessons only have value when they are applied. Imagine attending the same class every year because you refuse to take the final exam. Eventually, you would realize that learning means moving forward. Life works the same way. Challenges are meant to teach you patience, discipline, resilience, and character. Once the lesson is learned, carrying the pain serves no purpose. Holding on to regret after learning the lesson is like carrying heavy luggage long after your day, your destination. The weight becomes unnecessary. Yet many people refuse to put it down because they have become comfortable carrying it. One of the greatest dangers of living in the past is that it blinds you to the opportunities standing right in front of you. While your attention is fixed on what cannot be changed, you fail to notice what can still be created. Opportunities rarely announce themselves with loud voices. They often arrive quietly, disguised as small decisions, new habits, unexpected conversations, or simple acts of courage. But if your eyes are constantly looking backward, you will miss the doors opening ahead. The future belongs to people who recognize today's possibilities instead of yesterday's disappointments. It is important to understand that letting go does not mean pretending nothing happened. It does not mean forgetting the people who hurt you or ignoring the mistakes you made. Letting go means refusing to allow those experiences to continue making decisions for you. It means saying, I have learned what I needed to learn, and now I choose to move forward. That choice is one of the most powerful decisions any person can make, because it shifts your focus from what has been lost to what can still be gained. The human mind tends to replay painful memories more often than joyful ones. That is why discipline is so important. You must intentionally direct your thoughts toward growth instead of regret. Every day gives you the opportunity to strengthen your perspective. Instead of asking why something happened, ask what it taught you. Instead of asking why you failed, ask how you can improve. Instead of wondering what you cannot change, focus on what you can build today. These small changes in thinking eventually transform the way you see your entire life. Remember that every successful person has a past they could have used as an excuse. Every accomplished individual has experienced disappointment, rejection, embarrassment, and failure. The difference is that they refused to build their identity around those moments. They accepted responsibility for what came next. They understood that yesterday may explain their circumstances, but it could never dictate their destiny. That same opportunity exists for you. Every single day you choose to stop living in yesterday and start investing your energy in becoming the person you are capable of becoming. One of the most powerful moments in a person's life is the moment they stop waiting for someone else to change their future. Many people spend years blaming their circumstances, their upbringing, the economy, bad luck, or the actions of others for where they are today. While those factors may have influenced the beginning of the journey, they do not have the authority to determine where the journey ends. The day you accept responsibility for your future is the day you reclaim the power that has been sitting in someone else's hands. Responsibility is not about carrying guilt. It is about recognizing that your choices, from this moment forward, have the greatest influence on the life you are creating. It is easy to believe that success belongs to people who were born with better opportunities, greater resources, or fewer obstacles. That belief may provide temporary comfort because it removes the pressure to act, but it also removes the possibility of growth. The truth is that every person has control over certain parts of their life, regardless of how difficult their circumstances may be. You can choose your attitude. You can choose your work ethic. You can choose how you respond to failure. You can choose whether you spend your time learning or complaining. These choices may seem small on any single day, but repeated over months and years, they become the foundation of an extraordinary life. Every successful future begins with ordinary decisions. No one suddenly wakes up disciplined. No one magically becomes confident overnight. Those qualities are built through consistent action. Each day presents opportunities to make choices that move you closer to your goals, or farther, away from them. Reading instead of wasting time. Exercising instead of making excuses. Saving instead of spending impulsively. Practicing instead of procrastinating. Speaking with integrity instead of taking shortcuts. These are not dramatic decisions, but they quietly shape your character and determine your direction. Many people underestimate the power of daily habits because the results are invisible at first. When you improve by just a little each day, it may not feel significant. You might not notice the progress after a week or even a month. That is why so many people quit too early. They expect immediate rewards for consistent effort. Life rarely works that way. The greatest rewards come to those who remain faithful to the process, even when they cannot yet see the outcome. A single workout does not transform your body. One page of a book does not make you an expert. One disciplined financial decision does not create wealth. Yet thousands of those small actions, repeated with purpose, eventually produce results that appear remarkable to everyone else. Taking responsibility also means refusing to let excuses become permanent companions. Excuses are often believable because they contain a small amount of truth. You may not have had the easiest beginning. You may have experienced setbacks that others never faced. You may have encountered disappointments that were unfair. Acknowledge those realities, but do not allow them to become reasons for standing still. Every excuse may explain why progress is difficult, but no excuse has ever created success. Growth begins when you stop asking why something cannot be done and start asking what can be done with the resources you have today. Responsibility requires honesty. It asks you to look at your habits, your mindset, your decisions, and your priorities without making excuses. That level of honesty can feel uncomfortable because it removes the habit of blaming others. However, it also opens the door to improvement. Once you identify what needs to change, you gain the ability to change it. The areas where you accept responsibility become the areas where progress becomes possible. The areas where you refuse responsibility often remain unchanged year after year. Your future is not built by occasional moments of inspiration. It is built by the routines you practice when no one is watching. Every decision you make is either strengthening your future or weakening it. Every hour invested in learning, improving, planning, and growing becomes an investment that pays dividends later. Success rarely arrives all at once. It grows quietly through consistent effort, personal discipline, and a willingness to keep moving forward, even when progress feels slow. The person you become tomorrow is determined far more by the choices you make today than by anything that happened yesterday. Fear has stopped more dreams than failure ever could. Countless people spend years waiting for the perfect moment, believing that one day they will feel completely ready, completely confident, and completely certain about the future. They imagine that courage comes first and action follows. In reality, life works in the opposite direction. Courage is often born in the middle of action. Confidence grows after taking the first step, not before it. If you continue waiting until fear disappears, you may spend your entire life standing in the yowler, while opportunities quietly pass you by. Fear has a convincing voice. It tells you that you are not experienced enough, not talented enough, not prepared enough, or not capable enough. It reminds you of past failures and predicts future disappointment. It encourages you to stay where everything feels familiar, because familiarity feels safe. But safety and growth rarely exist in the same place. Every meaningful achievement requires stepping into uncertainty. Every successful person has faced moments where they questioned themselves, doubted their abilities, and wondered whether they were making the right decision. The difference is not that they were fearless. The difference is that they refused to let fear make the final decision. There is something remarkable about taking the first step. Before you act, every challenge appears larger than it really is. Your imagination creates obstacles that may never exist. You picture rejection before anyone has rejected you. You expect failure before you have even tried. You convince yourself that success belongs to people who are somehow different from you. Then, the moment you begin, reality replaces imagination. You start learning. You start improving. You start discovering strengths you never knew you possessed. Progress begins to replace uncertainty, because action has a way of revealing possibilities that thinking alone can never uncover. Perfection is one of fear's favorite disguises. Many people claim they are simply waiting until everything is perfect before they begin. They want the perfect plan, the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity, and the perfect conditions. Unfortunately, perfection is an illusion. There will always be another reason to wait if waiting becomes your habit. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not those who find perfect conditions. They are the ones who make steady progress despite imperfect circumstances. They understand that a good plan executed today is often far more valuable than a perfect plan that never leaves the imagination. Progress should always become more important than perfection. Every small improvement moves you closer to your goals. Even slow movement is still movement. A person who walks consistently toward their destination will eventually arrive, while someone who spends years planning the perfect journey may never leave the starting point. Small victories build confidence because they provide evidence that growth is possible. Each completed task, each lesson learned, and each obstacle overcome becomes proof that you are capable of more than you previously believed. Momentum is one of life's greatest forces, and it always begins with a single decision. One conversation can lead to a new opportunity. One application can open the door to a new career. One book can change your perspective. One disciplined habit can improve your health. One courageous decision can alter the direction of your entire future. People often focus so much on the size of the goal that they overlook the importance of simply starting. They become overwhelmed by everything that needs to happen instead of concentrating on the next step directly in front of them. Failure should never be feared as much as inaction. Failure teaches valuable lessons, develops resilience, and reveals areas that need improvement. Inaction teaches nothing except regret. Years from now, most people will not be haunted by the risks they took. They will be haunted by the opportunities they ignored, because fear convinced them to remain comfortable. Every day spent waiting for certainty is a day that could have been spent building experience, developing skill, and creating momentum. The future always belongs to those who move forward despite uncertainty. Fear may continue walking beside you for a while, but it becomes quieter each time you take another step. Confidence gradually replaces doubt because experience becomes stronger than imagination. The road ahead becomes clearer with every action you take, and each decision to keep moving proves that your determination is greater than your hesitation. Your commitment is stronger than your excuses, and your willingness to act is more powerful than the fear that once convinced you to stand still. Every person lives according to a story they tell themselves. Some people repeat a story filled with failure, disappointment, missed opportunities, and regret. They remind themselves every day of everything that went wrong, and before long, they begin to believe that their future can never be different from their past. Others choose a different story. They acknowledge the hardships they have faced, but they refuse to let those experiences become the definition of who they are. The most important story in your life is not the one that has already been written. It is the one you begin writing today. Through your choices, your habits, what can your determination to become better than you were yesterday? Your past may explain some of your struggles, but it does not determine your identity. Too many people introduce themselves to the world through their failures. They see themselves as the person who made mistakes, lost opportunities, experienced rejection, or fell short of expectations. When you constantly identify with your weakest moments, you unknowingly build invisible limits around your potential. You stop pursuing opportunities because you assume the outcome has already been decided. You hesitate before taking action because you expect history to repeat itself. But identity should never be based on your worst day. It should be built upon the person you are becoming through consistent effort and personal growth. Every day offers an opportunity to write another sentence in your story. The decisions you make today matter far more than the labels you accepted yesterday. If you choose to learn instead of complain, you write a different story. If you choose discipline instead of procrastination, you write a different story. If you choose forgiveness instead of bitterness, you write a different story. If you choose courage instead of fear, you write a different story. These choices may appear small in the moment, but over time, they completely transform the direction of your life. Great stories are not created through one dramatic event. They are built through thousands of meaningful decisions made when no one else is watching. Habits become the chapters that shape your future. Many people underestimate the influence of their daily routines because the changes happen gradually. One productive morning seems ordinary. 1 hour spent reading appears insignificant. One healthy meal feels unimportant. One act of kindness may seem unnoticed. Yet these actions accumulate day after day until they begin to define your character. The life you experience tomorrow is largely the result of the habits you repeat today. If your habits improve, your future improves. If your habits remain unchanged, your results often remain the same regardless of how badly you wish for something different. Growth requires the willingness to release the version of yourself that no longer serves your future. There are habits, beliefs, and attitudes that once protected you but now prevent you from moving forward. Perhaps you develop negative thinking because disappointment became familiar. Perhaps you learned to avoid risks because failure once hurt you. Perhaps you stopped trusting your abilities because someone else's opinion became louder than your own potential. These patterns may have become comfortable, but comfort is not always a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Sometimes growth begins with the uncomfortable decision to let go of the beliefs that have quietly limited your possibilities for years. One of the greatest transformations happens when you stop asking, "Who have I been?" and begin asking, "Who do I want to become?" That simple shift changes your focus from the past to the future. Instead of dwelling on old mistakes, you begin developing new strengths. Instead of measuring yourself by previous failures, you measure yourself by present effort. Instead of waiting for confidence to appear, you build confidence by honoring your commitments every single day. Character is not created through grand speeches or occasional motivation. It is formed by keeping the promises you make to yourself when no one else is paying attention. Every successful person has rewritten part of their story. They reached a point where they refused to let old labels dictate new possibilities. They understood that the world may remember where they started, but they had the power to decide where they would finish. They built new routines, adopted stronger values, embraced lifelong learning, and committed themselves to continuous improvement. Their greatest achievement was not escaping hardship, but refusing to allow hardship to define their future. Every day you choose better habits, stronger discipline, greater integrity, and a more hopeful mindset. You become the author of a new story that reflects your potential rather than your past, your purpose rather than your pain, your determination rather than your doubts, and your willingness to grow rather than your fear of what has already happened.